Welcome to the CEO Bros Podcast, After Hours, with Brian Baldoff, co-founded, grew, and sold BHT Studios. Brad Baldoff, CEO and co-founder of By Your Side Autism Therapy Services. Matt Croak, the consummate entertainer, jack of all trades, and serves as our host.
Welcome to CEO Bros.
Hey.
Hello, everyone. It is
Cheers.
After Hours.
Cheers.
Happy Friday.
You have one of those custom CEO.
I do. Custom CEO mugs that we don't have a shop,
Why
but
does
we.
it have lip gloss on it? You almost remind me of
I don't know. Last time I let you drink out of my glass. By the way,
remind me of a priest at mass with the cellist.
I'm not going to go. I'm not going to go down that. I'm not going to go down that path of
put this mic
how I remind him of a priest. We're going to let that one slide. By the way, this is not a cigar. I am holding my pretzel cigar.
pretzel rod.
Pretzel rod.
Trying to quit, or
No, just like, yeah. All right. Today we are talking about instinctual versus analytical. And decision making.
Okay, I just want to make sure that that's where we're going.
Yeah, for the decision making.
Because I would have needed time to analyze it.
yeah,
In terms of decision making, instinctual versus analytical.
Yeah.
And I hope I hear the word analysis paralysis somewhere in the podcast because I love that phrase. So I don't know, maybe it comes up, maybe it doesn't.
No, you're absolutely right, because that could come up with Brian. I mean, one of our favorite topics
Yeah.
to debate.
yeah. And I don't know that it's an either or. Sometimes you use both.
No, you definitely use both.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, and to be clear, just to go back a little bit, before we actually started rolling, there was even a little debate on what the definition was. So what does it even mean of instinctual versus analytical?
Right, because we were talking about is instinctual, intuitive, is it gut, is it impulsive? But we decided it's really just using your instincts to make a decision versus using data and analysis to make a decision. And again, it's not always either or. Sometimes it's a combination. But I think to Brad's point, there's times when you lean one way and times when you lean another way. I can think of two stories. One is a business story. We're looking at rolling out a whole new product line that no one in our industry had ever done before. And it was going to have a pretty significant expense associated
For
with it.
VHT Studios to roll out a baby food.
Right.
That was a little bit out of
That was just like,
But
that might have been impulsive.
That was
I'm having a baby.
There was a sale, and we bought all the jars and
No.
had to sell them.
It included an unusual expense that wasn't clear how much it was going to impact the profitability of this product. I don't want to get too deep in the weeds, but the first thought was, well, we got to analyze this. And after like 3 months of analyzing it and not coming up with any conclusive, facts to steer us one way or
Sounds
another.
like analysis paralysis.
Oh, yeah. I mean, ultimately, I said,
every time we hear analysis paralysis.
paralysis.
Oh, shit, we'll get drunk in this one.
I said, I don't care. We're doing this. To me, to be the first, this is a really strategic move. Once we launch it, we'll do analysis till the cows come home, and we'll figure out if this is working or not. We can kill it.
You were
It'll be
confident enough
painful.
that what the rolling this product or service out was going to be successful in your mind, no matter what. And the more we sit around and discuss this and analyze this, like we're losing precious time to market. Where
Right.
we got to be first in.
And as an outsider, if I may, because you both are CEOs who I respect very much, sometimes you say things and then you just kind of move on. To me and to aspiring entrepreneurs or any business leaders, that's a big deal what you just said. So let's just spend a second on that. You said after 3 months, we're doing this.
Right.
Is that like you to do something like that? Did you feel like it had to be done? What was it that you said, we're doing this? Even though the analytics for 3 months came up zip.
Right. So I think I realized, look, most of our debates are about execution. We have to assume we're going to execute well on this. If we don't, bad on us, and we can the project. but we can't run 57 different scenarios of, well, if we don't execute this well, or if we don't get these people on board, or we don't sell this correctly. It's like, let's assume we do what we say we're going to do. This is going to work. And if it doesn't, I'm taking accountability for this project. This doesn't fall on anybody else who did any of the math or, argued that, there was a better way to do it. So we did it. And it's funny because somebody just asked me about it a couple weeks ago. They're like, how did you ever decide to do this? Yeah. And did it work? And I said, it worked. It didn't work as well as I had hoped because we got distracted with other things and didn't do all the execution we needed to, but it definitely worked. And I said, why do you ask? And they said, no one else in the industry is able to do this. No one. And,
so do you look back at it now? Do you look back now and say that was a success, or do you say that was a failure?
Well, everything's a failure to me if we don't hit a home run,
But
it was a success.
Objective standards.
Objective standards.
That was a success.
And did that comment from your friend or ex-coworker or whatever, go, oh, wow, okay, maybe it was a better success because no one else is doing it?
Yeah, well, not only is no one else doing it, people are asking for it and can't find it anywhere.
So by default,
right, to me, that's a success. It's like, yeah, that's why we did it, is to differentiate ourselves, provide something that no one else did. Like I said, the execution is always devil's in the details and getting everybody on, because it was new. It was so new.
And what did the team think when you took that strong thing and said, we're doing this? Were they like, all right? I mean, you gave them the out.
I was taking account
waiting for you to pull the trigger. It's like,
interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, at a certain point, it's like, okay, well, somebody ultimately has got to call the shot. CEO calls the shot. What are we doing, Brian? And you're like, going.
Oh, right. So they're all probably like, oh, good.
Yeah, at a certain point, everybody probably is bringing up their reasons why it will or will not work. And at a certain point, okay, you're at a stalemate. And guess what? And many times you're the judge, where two people are debating a topic. I always tell my leaders, like, hey, maybe debating a topic, but at the end of the day, bring up your best cases for it. And if I need to be the judge on it, I will. And Brian ultimately said, okay, enough analysis. My instinct tells me we got to run.
We're going, and I'm doing this. The other story is more of a parable, and you guys have probably heard it, or people have heard it before. But still, one of my favorite.
First he says priest and now parable. You're very biblical today. Wow, let's get a third. Let's squeeze in a third biblical reference for you. Please pull out your pocket. Since we're doing Bible, let's do the Holy Trinity. So you got priest, parable, like sandals.
There's going to be a lion in this.
Oh, there you go.
Is there really a lion?
Yeah. Yes, there is. There is.
There's a line in this. I can't wait to hear this story. I can't wait to hear this parable.
I'm sure you guys have heard it before.
Man in the sand.
Two guys. Right? Two guys are hiking in the mountains.
Okay, go ahead. No, I'm not letting them get it through.
And they come upon a lion that's obviously looking for its next meal.
Yeah.
And so the one guy bends down and ties his shoes, and the other guy goes, "What are you doing?" He's like, this lion's going to eat us. And he's like, he's only going to eat one of us. So as long as I can outrun you, I'm fine. Not a lot of thinking going into that. That's just instinct. And that's an example of when you have to make a decision quickly. You are confronted with something that requires an immediate decision. You simply don't have time for analysis, paralysis.
Thank you.
I know you wanted to drink.
I needed to drink something. Thank God.
By the way, that really was a parable. I didn't think they really told a parable.
You guys have heard it before, right? That's
I heard
I
different
just have to run faster than you. Okay.
Yeah,
I love that.
I think the topic, though, is important in decision making, because what I've seen, especially in space that has new leaders, because we're a young industry, so we have newer leaders, is that you see one lean way too far one direction or the other. Meaning, okay, so if you're an analytical thinker, it is analysis paralysis. I've seen people just absolutely analyze,
tie themselves up in knots.
Make a decision and let's move on. And by the way, it's okay to make a decision, bumble, fall down. If it was the wrong decision, okay, right? I get it. And then conversely, I see people that make decisions and aren't thinking through the consequences. They're not thinking through the ramifications because they're not thinking out a day, a week, a month, a year ahead as to what other things may snowball from that decision. It's literally the here and now of the decision. And so I often find myself as a CEO coaching my leaders to say, well, let's talk about the decision you're going to make. what are the consequences? First of all, how long do you have to make this decision? Do we have to make this decision today? Do we have this decision next week? When does
That's a very important question.
And a lot of people don't even think about that. Like, I go, when is that decision due?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we got some time. Okay, well, then there's really not a rush to get back to that person today, even though I see that happen. People like rush out right away and they make a decision when they have time to think it through. And then the second thing is important part of the decision between analytical versus instinctual is, okay, what will happen if that's the wrong decision? And I even ask that. I say, what are the consequences of that? And they think through it and they're like, and I'll say, could this happen? Is this possible? No, yeah, no. Okay, then if the consequences aren't that bad and you don't have really, you can make this decision now, then it can be an instinctual decision. So I just want, one thing I just want our leaders to think through, and young leaders that are out there, is that ask yourself those two questions. How long do I have to make this decision? And secondly, what are the consequences of this decision if it's wrong? Because that's whether or not you should go instinctual or analytical. And I often find people not taking those steps. And it leads to bigger problems that you have to unravel down the road. And so that would be a big piece of advice. So when you mentioned that the other day, Matt, you're like, decision making, I hear you guys talking about analytical versus instinctual. We should talk about that. It's something I live daily, and I see with young leaders that they need to think through that a little bit more.
Yeah, and I hear that as a gut instinct. I think that if my boss has asked me a question, I'm going to have to come up with an answer. And you're saying not knowing is okay. Saying, let me get back to you on that. You actually go, that's not a weakness.
That's exactly right.
That's it. Yeah.
People see that as a weakness. If I can't give you an answer right away, I don't know. And if I don't know, then he's going to think I'm incompetent,
right,
or I'm not capable. And it's like, no, I actually respect you more if you say, I'd like to think on that. When can I have to answer that? Because I'd like to think through that. Now, it might be an instinctual response. You might be able to respond 10 minutes from now. But why would you not ask for time to think through that? I think people are like, the natural inclination of people is where it's natural in them to say, I got to respond right away.
Yeah.
Because if I don't know this, I'm going to look bad. You won't look bad. Mm-hmm. I actually think you look good when you take the time to ask yourself those two questions. So that's a big takeaway for me. And I think it's something that for those that are viewers that are out there, if you look through the sphere of, how much time and what are the consequences of this decision, you'll find a lot more of your decisions.
Yeah, that's a really important point. And I'm surprised I didn't make that connection, because when I talk to BCBAs about how to communicate with parents, I've actually said, I don't know is an answer. You can say to them, I don't know. And here you're telling that, and I'm going, oh yeah, you can't say you don't know, but it's the same. It's such an important point. Thinking about it in certain instances and coming back is not.
Yeah, most decisions, you are not going to have 100% of the information no matter how long you wait. We've talked about this before. The military talks about this all the time. You may only have 50%. And at some point, you as the leader have to go with your gut or your instinct, or like I would try to do is go with the instinct of a subject matter expert. A lot of times you talk to a subject matter expert, they'll tell you what's going to happen. And then you say, well, how do you know that? It's like, I just do. I've been doing this 30 years. I can't explain to you how I know it because it took me 30 years of living it and seeing it to come to this conclusion. You either trust me or don't. That's why you brought me in. You didn't bring me in to do data analysis. And I've seen the other side of it. We had an analyst who would create the most sophisticated models you've ever seen. And, we would go through revenue forecasting or budgeting, and it would be like, okay, what's the probability of this? And what's the worst case and what's the best case? And, my answers were always, well, this might happen or that might happen. Okay, well, if this happens, what's the probability? What's the best case, worst case? And I appreciated the exercise, but always when we got to the end, I would say, I can't trust this answer because it's built on a series of assumptions that are built on assumptions that are built on assumption. Like, it's like making a photocopy of a photocopy of a photocopy. By the end, It's like there's so many assumptions in here. Like I don't trust this. For like in real estate.
Wait, in that instance, are you saying like I have to make a decision based on instinct at this point?
At some point, yeah, it was good to go through the exercise to try and do the analysis. It's kind of like my story from earlier. We did the analysis, but at some point you go, okay, well, this isn't getting us anywhere, or I don't trust the number. I'm going to, as always, good to go through the process. No, I
know. I was going to say, I'm the one who joked about the cigar.
It's good. He actually has a cigarette.
Yeah. Are you trying to quit? How's it feel?
If you have the time, it's good to go through the analytic process, but then at the end, you may still be making a gut instinct decision or call on it, because the analysis is proven inconclusive one way or the other, or there's too many unknowns or something like that. So you got to be prepared for that. And like you said, there's some people who can't do that. Like if I can't see the end result and have 100% confidence in it, I'm not going to make that decision. It's like, okay, well, there's sometimes we have to make that decision and live with the consequences, even though we don't know all of the,
Brian, if you had to net this out, like I get lost when you say something like that. What would you net out to the viewer though, as it relates to decision making? My net out for a viewer would be, in every decision you make, 2 questions. What's your timeline on that decision? When does that decision have to be made? Is this an urgent situation? Can this be made tomorrow? Can this be made in a week?
That's a big factor.
Number one, what is the timing on your decision? And then 2, what are the consequences if your decision is wrong? Because that's where a more analytical approach is needed. And so do you have different takeaways than that?
Well, it sounds like this is for you. You're telling leaders and CEOs, you have to instinctually know when something has been analyzed and it's time to move forward. Like there's that sweet spot of, okay, we went through the process, but let's not go too long and let's not go too short. So you're talking about finding that sweet spot.
Yeah, I think you have to be prepared for both, and ultimately to make an instinctual decision. Even if you said, "Hey, this is very consequential for the company, and we have time to make this decision," you may not get to that end point where the data gives. I think people like to use data as a pacifier. Like, oh well, the data says this. Like, do you really trust the data? Did you see how we put that data together? Like that's a lot of assumption.
Came from?
See where that data came from? I've got a gut instinct that that's not really, because
it does sound like
data gives you a false sense of security a lot of times. But at the same time, instinctual decisions, I do think you have to ask people, what are you basing this on? Like I brought up the example of a subject matter expert who just knows. But even them, you could say, well, give me the general things that go into this decision. Because sometimes somebody explains something and you're like, okay, well, that assumption is just dead wrong. Do you know that? Like that changed yesterday, or there's a new law, or there's a new competitor in town. So you do have to check, okay, I know it's your gut instinct, but if you had to, what are you basing it on? What are the 2 or 3 things?
And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but hearing you, it sounds like you've gotten frustrated more with people assuming, and you've gotten frustrated more with assumptions, and you're kind of leaning towards the, hey, be more instinctual, make that decision, because you've kind of, railed on data and analysis.
It's absolutely funny because I'm the reverse.
I know.
I'm the exact opposite of that. I'm a guy that's very like, let's get this done. Let's go through this wall. Let's knock this out right now. I'm a very impulsive, instinctual thinker on everything. And yet, over the last several years, I've worked diligently to ensure that my team becomes more analytical in their thinking, because they make too many impulsive decisions at times. So I'm like, guys, wait a minute. Did we even think through what the consequence of that decision is? And so it's okay if they make the wrong move. I just want them to think through it a little bit more. And so as aspiring entrepreneurs out there, it's you want to make quick decisions. Typically, instinctual decisions are fast, and people reward speed. They like speed. It's fast. This guy's cool. I love working for this guy because he makes quick decisions. Great. They may not be right, but he makes quick decisions.
At least we can move forward.
People like that because they feel like if we move forward, we can progress, right? We can progress to failure.
Fail fast.
Fail fast, right? But I would just say balance the two.
It sounds like,
Yes.
Balance the two.
Yeah.
And
That's probably the most important.
And ask those two questions that I asked, which I think are important for decision making moving forward.
Do you think a CEO has to introspectively figure out if they're more instinctual or more analytical, and then surround themselves with some people who are the opposite?
It's a good suggestion, man. I think they do. Because the
That's not a question. That's not a suggestion. Find out who you are.
I don't even look at it as instinctual though, and analytical. I look at it, the people I surround myself with are aggressive and conservative in how they approach business. Like, shouldn't we go a little bit slower on this? And others we have to plow ahead.
And then you sit back and kind of go, okay, good to hear both
and I
arguments.
hear all the perspectives.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, is that aggressive approach too impulsive, too instinctual? Is this conservative approach too analytical? It's interesting, but you do want to surround yourself with a mix of that, because you don't want to get stuck in the quagmire, but you don't want to aggressively outgrow the speed you should be growing.
So it's interesting now that you've said it. I know we were debating the words and the definitions. I stay away from people who make impulsive decisions, because they'll claim it's on instinct or gut instinct, but 9 times out of 10,
They don't have any patience.
yeah, it's like they don't have patience. And when you talk to them a month later, it'd be like, hey, where's that thing that you were so excited about that we bought? It's like, oh, yeah, it's just under my desk.
Oh, the silver shiny thing in the corner
The silver
of the room that
shiny
they no
thing.
longer want to
Is
change.
it exactly? I tried to avoid that like the plague, because people who make decisions that way tend to always make them that way. And once you start to notice this pattern of, geez, the last 3 things they did, they're gone, because they got obsessed with the new shiny object. And so impulsive, to me, bad.
I don't want to get into hiring, but when you're hiring managers and leaders, how do you look for those traits, or what do you look for? I mean, how do you assess out impulse?
I always ask that question in interviews.
Just flat
tell
out.
me some decisions that you've made that were consequential, and then let's walk through the thought process.
That's consequential. That's a good way to say it.
Yeah, that's really good. It's just put them in scenarios, give them very real world scenarios, and say, if you were faced with this situation, what decision you would make, and don't worry about what the decision is. Just walk me through how you
came to that.
And it's important, because you learn how people just think through the scenario, and whether they ask questions or they go, well, I would do this. I was like, well, okay, hold on. Did you even think to ask these questions? So, no, I would just do this. And then you say, okay, that's going to lead to some potential problems. So, yeah, it's actually interesting. I do think you need to balance both. I think that if you over-rotate and go one direction or the other, it will have negative consequences for your business. Because someone that is too instinctual is typically impulsive and doesn't follow through, and then quickly makes another impulsive decision and another impulsive decision. And those that are too analytical are typically wrapped up in analysis paralysis. Please.
When
No, go ahead. I was gonna
say, it's also important we've talked about accountability and how important it is to have people in the company take accountability for things, which means, they own this process or this product line or this project. A lot of decisions are going to need to be made, but taking accountability, they're making those decisions. So you have to understand how that person makes decisions before you allow them to take accountability for something. Because you don't want to get into something and realize, oh my gosh, this person doesn't know how to make good decisions or good choices. They're a subject matter expert, or they're ambitious, or they're, talented, but they don't know how to make decisions. Because a lot of people ask, well, how do I, advance my career? How do I get up the ladder? Prove that you can make good decisions and live with the consequences, Can
we talk about really quickly to close here? Can we talk about the decision we're making to leave Studio G? Are you guys aware that we're leaving Studio G?
Well, and
Studio G behind
and
us?
there was another decision with a new engineer working with us. That was
yes, we have Alyssa who joined us, and that was basically
in seriousness, this was a instinct.
It was an instinctual decision based on, obviously, has the skill set, has the competency, has the experience. Why go through the process of interviewing the other 8 to 10 candidates that we had. We talked to a couple.
Yeah. We had an immediate need.
But we had an immediate need. We could have taken our time, but we said we've got the right candidate. Seems like so. Just kidding. Alyssa's smiling. If she's smiling, I can't see her right now through the lights over there. No. But the reality is there's decisions you make where you're like, why carry on doing over-analysis when the decision's clear, you've got your check boxes made, and you're like, okay, we're going to make a decision. And you know what? Whether it's the right or wrong decision, we think we made the right decision. And so now that with Alyssa appears to be the right move. We are going to be making the right move by changing studios.
We are. We're going to have a season 2 coming up. This is not, Studio A, right?
Studio A,
yeah. So this is not the end of season 1. We will talk about that coming up, but we are going to be in a new setting.
New studio, new season.
Yeah.
A lot of things to come. We'll talk about that, I'm sure, in the next couple episodes.
So the best decision that you can make, instinctual, impulsive, analytical, is to hit that subscribe button. That is the best decision you can do right now. Because then impulsively, new episodes come right into your feed.
Don't even think about it.
Don't even think about it. Just do it. Just hit the subscribe button. It doesn't cost anything. Hit it. Tell your friends.
Do it.
Everyone.
Best decision
You'll ever make tonight.
Click my glass.
Click my glass.
You Irishman.
Here's my pretzel.